I forgot to unmute my mic. That was stupid. So you're probably wondering why you have no sound. There you go. I fixed it. It was just muted in OBS. So you didn't hear me breathing, snorting, sniffling, snuffling into the mic whilst the theme tune was playing. But now that it is, okay, you can stop pinging me now on Messenger. I'm aware we had no sound. But we should have sound now because I can see it peaking nicely in the meter. So we're good. So there we go. Yes, I started with the mic muted. Sorry about that. Should we start again? Good evening and welcome to another episode of Sunday Night Live with me, Jonny Lipsham, here in Edinburgh, in Scotland, the capital of the entire universe and everything in it. I hope you guys are doing well. Yes, thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. You were trying to get my attention, and that's cool. I should have been looking over at the chat, which is over on this screen over here. And I was too busy looking over at you because you guys are very attractive and I like engaging with you. So, but thank you. I appreciate that. What I do, here is what I do, a little bit of insider information. What I do when I do my show is whilst the theme tune is playing, I mute my mic in OBS. So you guys don't have to hear me shuffling and shifting about, getting myself organized whilst I wait for the theme tune to finish playing out. And it's just easier that way. It's nice and quiet. You don't get any background noise. You just get to hear the theme tune play. And then the idea is I unmute and we start. However, I forgot to unmute. As Ken rightly says, this is a test. This is only a test. But yes, there we go. So what was I saying? I was saying the kind of news, I like to do a little piece of news of what's going on over here in the United Kingdom, because I know a lot of you guys are not in the United Kingdom. A lot of you are in America, and some of you are in South Africa, some of you are in the Philippines, some of you are in different parts of the world, and I don't know how aware you are of what's going on over here. But here's the thing. We are almost in full lockdown, but we're not quite. Not there yet. We still have schools and things going on. Those are still going on. But over in Glasgow, where Alan from Photography, Light and Magic is, and where some of my family are, they are now in full lockdown. Which is where they were in March. Which is where the whole United Kingdom was in kind of March. So they're in full lockdown. But here's the fun thing, and this has been making me chuckle all day. All four home nations of the United Kingdom, that's England, Scotland, Northern Ireland, and Wales, have agreed together that coronavirus should be entitled to a Christmas vacation just like the rest of us. So what does this mean in practice? This means in practice that we're all in lockdown. Those people that are in various different stages of lockdown, different tiers, you're all in lockdown. And then when we get towards Christmas, lockdown is kind of unlocked. And well, with some restrictions. I'm not being entirely fair on the agreement, but with some restrictions. And that is what it means in practice is it means that households can come together. So I can go over to me, my wife, and my kids. We can go over to, we can go across the Firth of Forth into Fife, which is the other side of the river, which is where my parents are. We can go and hang out with them for Christmas, which would be great. That would be lovely. However, it's not a great idea because I don't ever remember ever a time there being a time anywhere on the planet Earth that a virus takes time off. Never seen it before. Maybe coronavirus wants to take a vacation and go and hang out with its cousin SARS or MERS. Maybe. I don't know. It's just a thing. Anyway, that's about as political as I'm going to get. I'm just telling you this because I thought it was funny. And I still think it's funny. So, there you go. So, what is the plan for tonight's show? Tonight's show is a completely open to the floor to you guys. It is all about your questions. Tonight, I have no other agenda other than that. I may play a little piano. I may play something in Studio One. We'll see kind of how it goes. But really, this is about your questions. And if you have something that you want me to show you in Studio One, we can do that. That's easy enough. Now, we're going to be a little bit low on viewers over the course of the next sort of, over tonight. Because, it's kind of the weekend. And some of you are not working on Monday. So you may well be away and not able to see the show. In which case, that's fine. Hope you have a great time and you're able to catch up with the show after the fact. And that's fine. So, your questions. Let's see what we have. We have lots of people here today in the chat. Chat has been pretty active. Thomas, over in the Philippines, was the first one in the door. He was a full 35 minutes ahead of time. Well done, Thomas. And he says, good morning. And Rich Wrestler followed him in by saying the sun sets here in Northern California. And Bill Shepherd was right behind him. Saying good evening from Michigan. And Kyle is here as well. Kyle Jadrusiak says, we had no sun in New Jersey today. Wow. So it was nighttime in New Jersey all night. Wow. All day. Wow. It was a fun live Zoom session last night with Jonny Geib. Yeah, Jonny Geib did his Chicago meetup, which I heard went really well. He told me that there was about 18 or 19 people there, which is great. For those of you that are in the United Kingdom, the Studio One UK meetup will be happening this Friday. So come and join me. There is an Eventbrite link in all of the social media groups that I manage. I will post it here in YouTube as well, so that you can bookmark it. I'm just going to go and get that actually. Just give me 1 second to go and find that. There it is. So let's open that in a new tab. And I'll make sure I get the whole URL. Let's copy that. Let's paste that in the chat there. So there is the UK Studio One meetup. And it happens on the last Friday of every month, 8 p.m. UK time till 10 p.m. So it's a 2-hour thing. And I'm going to be hosting it alongside my colleague, Persona's product specialist, Lee Boylan, who is awesome. He's a great guy. And he really knows his stuff. He's done a lot of live demos and things for Studio One and Notion and a few other products as well. Over the years, he's fantastic. So he'll be here with us as well. Hopefully, he didn't make it to the last one, so I'm hoping he's going to make it to this one as well to kind of help me out a bit. Would be great. All right, so in that Eventbrite page, there is a link to the Zoom. And the password is pretty easy. And you should be able to get in no trouble. So yeah, every last Friday of the month. With the exception of next month, which will be Christmas Day. So we won't be doing that then. So the one after this Friday will be the last Friday in January. And then we'll keep going all the way through until the summertime. And hopefully when we get to the summertime, 2021... hopefully, we'll be able to do actual in-person meetups. We'll have to kind of see how things go with COVID-19. But yeah, I would really like us to be able to do proper in-person meetups. And if that's the case, I will be hosting one here in Edinburgh. And I'll get together with Alan and talk about hosting one in Glasgow as well. And I'm basically going to be doing a little bit of traveling about. That's my plan anyway, to kind of do a little bit of traveling about and try and get some meetups happening in various cities in the UK. So that's what I would like to do, and we're going to have to see how easy that's and practical that's going to be. All right, so now that I've got that information out of the way, I can go back through and see who else is here. Ken is here, and Mike is here, and Bobby Booth as well. Don't think Bobby has ever missed a show. Dwayne is here. He says, I'll be back in a moment. I have to go serve my dinner. Awesome. What's on the menu? I'd like to know. Because I'm a nosy git. Andy Arthur is here as well. Awesome. And Peter Brooks. Martin Weeks. Martin says, let's hear some snorting and snuffling and so on. Yeah, you really don't want that. I have a raging cold at the moment, and which my son also has. So between the two of us, it's not very entertaining, and I really don't want you to hear that. Okay. Let's see, what questions do we have? And Just Bob's here as well. Stop in and say hi, hit the like button. Have a good show. Yes. Thank you, Bob. You look after yourself, mate. You and I have talked offline, and that's cool. So you take care of yourself. Let's see. There was a question. Can you use two of the same MIDI controllers in Studio One? Of exactly the same? So like if you had two Yamaha, I don't know what the latest model Yamaha keyboard is. I should know, but I don't. I've not used Yamaha keyboards in a long time other than the one that I've got here. Way back in the 1990s, I was a Yamaha endorsee, but not anymore, obviously. I was an endorsee with them for about 18 months, nearly 2 years. And this is the bad boy that I was kind of promoting. This what's it called? The QS300, which is brand spanking new in 1994. And so I did lots of trade show demos and that kind of thing of that. So are you referring to exactly the same controller device? So if you had like two Yamaha QS300s, for example, can you have them both in Studio One? I would think you can. You'd have to name them slightly differently so you don't get confused between which one is which. So you'd just set them both up in the same way that you would any other device. So you'd do that in depending on kind of whether it's just a keyboard or a keyboard plus control surface. If it's a keyboard plus control surface, you have to do it a little bit differently. Like if it's got knobs and encoders and things like that on it. There are two things you have to do. The first thing you have to do is you have to set up the keyboard as an actual, playable keyboard instrument in Studio One. And then you have to set it up as a control surface. So you have to do two setups for that. And that's a question we get asked a lot in support. That, a lot of people are just like, well, the keyboard works, but the encoders and things like that don't work in Studio One. Why is that? Is there a bug or something? And it's just like, no. You have to set it up as a keyboard and as a control surface to do both. You have to kind of do both. There are some kind of bespoke and slightly unusual setups that you might need to do. For example, if you have an organ, for example, and I mean, kind of like one that has bass pedals and two manuals or more manuals, it may well be, depending upon how that is all configured in the MIDI controller of the instrument, it may well be that you need to set that up 3 times as 3 separate keyboard instruments. And then you combine it maybe as a multi-instrument and create a bespoke multi-instrument preset for it. But yeah, so there are certain circumstances where you do need to kind of do it 3 times, and in which case you would do the first one as manual 1, the next one you do is manual 2, and then you do the third one as bass pedals. And that would be your setup. So you'd have 3 separate keyboards, and then you create perhaps some kind of multi-instrument. Or, have like an aux, one of the new aux channels or something like that to actually have it working. I worked with a guy on his ticket last week to help him kind of get that particular configuration set up, because it's not kind of the usual thing. It's not the usual setup for most keyboards. And it worked for him, and he is happily away making wonderful music with his fantastic organ. He's got Clavier, the company that make the Nord line of keyboards. They also make an organ which has 2 manuals and a set of bass pedals, and it's like one massive instrument. But each one of the manuals can be taken out separately as a separate keyboard. And it's awesome. It's like 20 grand's worth of kit, but they are pretty amazing. I've played one, and it totally blew my mind, because you can have them set up like one, your bottom manual as a Vox Argo, and then the top manual as a Hammond B3, and then you can have like the Hammond B3 pedals or the Farcifer pedals. It's like you can have 3 separate organs in one. It's amazing what they've done. But that has to have a particular setup inside Studio One. So kind of yes and kind of no is the answer. Rich says, how busy are you if I wanted you to add a Fender Rhodes keyboard section to one of my songs? The true reality of this question. I still am taking studio jobs, session work. Drop me an email, and in email, send me a mix down of your song, minus any mocked up Rhodes parts, and a chord chart. And the chord chart needs to have the following information. It needs to have the chords on it, obviously, but it also needs to have the tempo as well, and the time signature. So if it's like 3/4, 134 beats a minute, and then the chord changes, then absolutely. And then an MP3 mix down of the song minus the keyboard part that I'm going to be playing, and then I'll bring those into Studio One, and I will play my keyboard part in, and playing along to your nice MP3 mix down backing, and then I will send you back my keyboard part, and we'll do it via Dropbox. Or if you are a member of Persona Sphere, we can do it by that. You just need to invite me to your workspace, and I can just export it dead easy. So I hope that answers your question. Let's see. Is there a higher quality interface moving up from an 1824? Yes, there is. Once you get above the 1824 C product line, the studio interfaces, basically, then the next tier that you're into are the Quantums. And those are only really of any use to you if you have a Thunderbolt port on your computer or a Thunderbolt card on your computer. If you have Thunderbolt, away you go. You can use one of the Quantums. Otherwise, kind of like the top echelon, really, of Presonus interfaces for USB is the 1824 or the Studio 192. The Studio 192 has onboard Fat Channel DSP, which basically means the Fat Channel is built into the interface, which means you can record through it, which is great if you're kind of wanting to do a show like this, for example, because it means you can EQ and compress and limit the mic going in to OBS. Whereas what I'm doing at the moment is OBS has, in its latest couple of updates, they have added an EQ, they have added a compressor, they have added a limiter, and they have also added a gate and an expander, which is great, because what that means is that just on my mic input, I can put whatever I want, and then my Studio One input into OBS doesn't have any processing at all. So it's not compressed, it's not limited, it's not nothing. But this mic is. This mic has a limiter, a compressor, and an expander, and an EQ. So, which is why when I stop talking, you have no background sound. You don't hear my fan of my computer, for example, and you don't hear the whine of the disk drive of my old Yamaha QS300. That doesn't work. So, yeah. Let's see. Subvids is here. Hello, good to see you. Welcome to the show. It's just a Q&A tonight. Let's see. Bill Shep says, if someone has two MIDI controllers daisy chained through the same MIDI input, they may need to assign them to different MIDI channels. You will absolutely need to do that, yes. They will need to be on separate MIDI channels. Otherwise, you'll get crosstalk. So, way back in the 80s and 90s, a lot of keyboards like this would have had a MIDI in, a MIDI out, and a MIDI through. Now, my good friend Robin Vincent, just earlier this evening, Robin runs a YouTube channel called Molten Music Technology. In fact, it's not just a YouTube channel. It is an entire business. It is his business. And he does really, really great at it. And he also writes an awful lot of articles for magazines like Sound on Sound. He is Sound on Sound's Studio One specialist. So he did a review of Studio One 5 and everything else, and I talked with him quite a bit about that. But I've known Robin for a long time. He's a good friend of mine. And what was I going to say about Robin? Yeah, he has just done his own live stream, taking questions from his followers. And one of the questions there was all about MIDI and MIDI through and all of that. How does MIDI through work? Well, MIDI through allows you to kind of daisy chain. Let's say I wanted to daisy chain this to like a sound module. Way back in the 90s, we would have had all sorts of sound modules available to us. Yamaha made a few, Roland made a few, Akai made a bunch of fantastic samplers, and you could daisy chain these via MIDI through. And what that would mean is that via MIDI through, I could use this keyboard to trigger the sounds of something else. But then when you want to record that into your DAW, they have to be on separate MIDI channels. Otherwise, you get crosstalk and you get both things playing the same kind of thing with different sounds, which is not great. So, yes, you'd need to be on different channels. Let's see. Dwayne says, I don't put my spoon down for just anyone. Tonight we are having our family version of comfort food. Nice. Mashed potatoes with brown ground turkey gravy and green beans. Wow, that sounds good. Rich says, I use a Yamaha Piano P115 as my controller. I use Easy Drummer, Contact, and all Personas instruments. Why would I want to or need to use my MIDI cables that I have? The purpose for them. Well, here's the thing. My Yamaha QS300 has MIDI outputs. It has MIDI ports on the back of it. And they are connected to my interface, which also has MIDI inputs, MIDI ports on the back. And what this means is I can have this just as a controller to control anything software-wise in Studio One, for example, Contact, or any other sound library you can think of, Presence XT, Mai Tai, Mojito, anything, Impact, all of those, I can control from this keyboard via my MIDI cables. Now, if you are using something like that, like you're talking about your Yamaha controller, plus maybe you have, let's say, for example, you have a set of V drums, and you want to be able to use those in Studio One as well, well, you may need to get something that is called a MIDI interface. Jonny Geib has a couple of those, and he has done regular shows, several shows actually, where he talks about how he hooks up his Personas branded keyboard and his V drums, and he can play both of those. You just have to make sure that however they are connected to your computer, whether it's via MIDI cables into a MIDI hub and then via USB into the computer, you just need to make sure that each one has its own dedicated MIDI channel in Studio One. And you can do that in the external devices setup dialog box. So all of that should be cool. So yeah, that's why you might need to use MIDI cables. If you've got a keyboard that's old, like this one has, there's no way I can connect this via USB to my computer directly. Doesn't work like that. However, my Atom SQ is connected via USB. And that means, you know, I can control both. I can control anything with either of those because they are connected to Studio One into different routes entirely. The Atom SQ is connected via USB and is assigned via the external devices in that particular setup. My Yamaha QS300 is added as a separate keyboard, and that's connected to the back of my interface. So they are connected in two different ways. So you can have multiple different MIDI devices, and they can do whatever you want in Studio One, fundamentally. Let's see. What else do we have? Have you heard anything about Studio One and the new Apple computers? Asked John Lake. John, I work for Presonus. I think you can work out for yourself what the answer to that question is going to be. So I'll move on from that. Billy says, I hate some lyrics for a song. I was wondering if you or anyone here would like to arrange a verse, bridge, or chorus and put maybe instrument or acoustic. Oh, I think you mean have, not hate. And maybe put instrument or acoustic guitar or piano. Billy, that is a great question, and is definitely one for the group. And I suggest that maybe you connect with folk here. You can contact people via their YouTube channels. You can send messages that way, and make contact that way. And maybe you'll get some folks working with you. If you're a member of Persona Sphere, again, all you need to do is just invite them to join your workspace, and you can file share and you can collaborate to your heart's content via that method, and it works really, really well. 911 a day says, I realize Presence XT has an auto pan feature. Is this included somewhere in Studio One 5 Pro, something like the auto pan? Yeah, I can show you what we've got in Studio One. If you give me just a second to go ahead and create a new song, I can show you how this will work. It's actually really, really cool because I have used this myself. So let me just set up, I don't want that many tracks. Let's just do one. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to go over to Studio One, and I've got my thingy set up here, and I want this to be on input right, not input left, because I don't want my voice coming through it. I want this guy. I want this guy coming through. All right, so what do we have native to Studio One? I can show you as I scroll through my endless selection of plugins. Now, you're thinking, binaural pan. No. What we do have is we have pedal board, and I'll show you how this works. Let me open this guy, and we'll close that. We'll close that because we don't need them. We'll just raise this up just a wee bit. There we go. And we're going to get pedal board in here. Now, the cool thing about pedal board is that it's not just for guitar players. It's also for keyboard players. As you can see, you've got all sorts of things here. You've got like a tremolo thing. You've got setup one, phase room, phase EP. You got loads. But this one actually sounds pretty good. You aren't going to be able to hear that because I don't have the monitor button on. There we go. Now it's not really, because I'm using a mono source, it's not actually going to do much in the way of stereo kind of panning right now. Let me see. See what I got here. Yeah, I was going to add something there. I was going to add something, but I'm not going to do that. You can do it with a phaser. But because I'm using a mono source, you're not really going to hear it kind of pan left and right. But this is kind of what I use. And then you can combine it with this guy after the fact. So, I mean, you don't have to use pedal board. You can just use just the phaser and get some stereo width going. But this is definitely an option. So let's remove that. Let's go and grab the phaser and drop that in here. And you can adjust the stereo spread. So let's set this up for something cool. Let's see what we got here. And let's go and open that up a bit. And then you can adjust the speed and all of that, and the stages as well. So yeah, so there's different ways of getting around it. Xtrem is another option as well. Xtrem is very cool. Let's go down and get that. Xtrem. Let's see. Here's a panner, so you can do like a slow pan. Let's try this. That's not really panning, is it? Maybe we need to speed it up a bit. Let's try that. Yeah, it's not really panning, is it? I'm not really seeing it pan, anyway, or hearing it pan. Let's try that. Let's make that a stereo track instead, and that's made it go to my mic. Damn it, I didn't want to do that. There we go. There we go. I just didn't have the channel mode set correctly. Yeah, so you can do, I mean, I've probably got that phaser set too fast now. So let's slow it down a bit. Let's try that. There we go. I can speed that up maybe just a little bit more. Let's just turn the pan off for a second. There we go. There you go. We got there in the end. There are a bunch of different options that you can try. So you can have the pedal board and use the phaser there. That kind of works pretty well as well. You just got to make sure, again, that you have the channel mode in stereo, which I didn't have to start with. And that's why nothing was working. But yeah, combination, I mean, if you don't like that phaser sound, you just want just the tremolo, you can do that too. So yeah, so you can do it with or without phaser. You don't have to have phaser. All right, so I hope that that's kind of answered that question about that. Martin Wheat says X-Trem has either tremolo or pan features, at least in Studio 1456. Yes, it still does that in Studio 1511, and arguably does it better because it's been updated. There's been a lot of work that's been put into those. We're kind of just doing Q&A, Tim, but I'm glad you're here, buddy. And you say, "Oh, we're talking panning." Well, yeah, we're talking a lot of things. Oh yes, there is a pan pedal. Yes, yeah. Well spotted. Ken says, "Cable Guys Pancake is an auto pan plugin. It's free to download." Yep, I have seen that. And Lloyd correctly points out, your channel set to mono. Yes, it was. When you load it, there's a little blue button, either pan or tremolo, and you wait for adjustment intensify. Yeah. Yep. Let's see. Kilohertz as well. Yep. There are plenty of options. We were talking panning for a few minutes. Yes. Actually, I'll tell you, this combination of phaser and the X-Trem sounds really, really good. Let's see. Let's drop the range a little bit. Yeah, it sounds pretty good. And you can back the mix off a little bit with the phaser if you want. So the X-Trem is a little bit more front and center. So there's different ways you can go about getting that classic 1970s Fender Rhodes panning phasing kind of thing. I like the phaser. I don't use it a lot. I usually go for the pedal board and that 90s phaser pedal because it just sounds nice and gritty and there's a little bit of dirt to it, whereas this guy is just super squeaky clean and there's no way to drive it, unfortunately. But yeah, it works. It does the job. I'm not going to complain too terribly much. I'm going to go back over here. Hello again. I can see you. 90 Days says, well, headphones are becoming so prevalent in society these days, I have some panning ideas to play with. So this is wonderful. Cool. I'm glad. I is glad. And we had some donations, which I have missed. Sorry about that. Let's see. What donations did we get? I should go back over here and see what we had. 911 a day gave me a couple of dollars, which is very kind. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Every cent is very helpful and will help me because I will plow it straight back into this channel and to making better live streams and making better videos. At the moment, with all the lockdown and everything that's been going on, and for a long period, I had the kids at home, so something had to give. You know, I'm working full-time for Personas. I'm running my business as well. And I was trying to homeschool my kids as well. Something had to give. And the thing that gave was doing videos, making a weekly video. Because I was just too exhausted with all the things going on in the day that really the only time I had was at night for making videos. And, you know, that would mean I would be doing like, you know, 18, 19 hours a day of work. And I couldn't really foresee that I could sustain that for any kind of length of time. So, what I'm going to be doing going forward is I'm going to be shooting videos in a batch and then uploading them and setting them to a scheduled release time. So it will be as if I'm releasing a weekly video, but I'm not. I'm just shooting them in a bulk batch of videos when I have time free to do it, and then I'm just going to schedule them so that they will appear kind of roughly every week. And we'll kind of see how that goes. And hopefully it will work for everybody. Let's see. Wait, loads of stuff coming in the chat. That I missed. The Phase 90s in the pedal board, it's pretty nice. It most certainly is. I prefer it over the Phaser 2, to be honest. The Phaser 2 is a little bit squeaky clean. And that Phaser 90 pedal has got some nice grit and dirt to it, which makes it really, really cool. You know, I mean, I can compare the two. If I go back to Studio One, we can compare the two, because they do sound pretty good. So let's do that. Let's go back over here. And I'm going to go get pedal board again. Hang on just a sec. LMNOP, pedal board. We'll go and we'll put the pedal board at the end here. And we'll set up keys. I think it's this one here. Yeah, this is the little preset that I have. And we'll turn the delay off so that that's not running. And I'll even turn... Can I turn the chorus off? I'll just leave the chorus for now. There we go. Chorus is off. So it's just literally just the phaser. So let's get rid of the other phaser. Sounds really, really cool. And you can totally adjust the speed. So let's drop the speed down a little bit. Sounds pretty good. All right, so let's bypass the pedal board and get the other phaser in. Yeah, it doesn't quite have the same kind of bite to me as the pedal board one does. And I clipped a little bit, but that's okay. So yeah, I really quite like the difference between the two. There are probably times when I would go for that nice clean phaser over the Phaser 90 pedal here. But that is really, really cool. Martin says, with the phaser and E-Tram sounds like classic Max Middleton from blah blah. Yeah, maybe a little bit actually. Yeah. Let's see, what else do we have? One MIDI channel equals one stereo audio channel. Kind of depends is the answer there. I mean, you can create multi-instruments in Studio One, which is really, really cool. But yeah, if you've got one controller, like my Yamaha QS300, I can use that to control any instrument that is available to me inside Studio One on its MIDI channel. But if I also have a set of V drums and I want to control impact from my V drums, they need to be on their own individual MIDI channel. So MIDI and audio are not the same thing, because MIDI is pure data. It has no sound properties of its own whatsoever. So you can't really compare the two. They're both different. But yes, if I have impact, it's going to be on its own instrument track. If I have Presence XT, that's going to be on its own instrument track. And they need to be on separate MIDI channels, otherwise you get crosstalk. Which is kind of where, if I had a set of V drums over here, and I hit one of the pads, it would play, or something like that. As well as the snare drum sound. And you don't want that. Unless you're going for something particularly where you have a particular layering situation, and that might work for you. Having them on the same channel might work for you. But for the most part, you're not going to want to do that. For the most part, you want to have the different things on their own MIDI channel. Kind of like when you plug your guitar into a mixer, for example, like the one that's in front of me here, the Studio Live. I would plug that into input 1. And I would plug my Fender Rhodes into input 2 and a microphone into input 3. They go into their own channels, and then you have your own dedicated audio tracks in the arranger view, and they send their audio to audio channels in the mixer. So kind of similar. However, there are some differences here, like particularly with impact. When you drag an instance of impact in, which I'm going to show you right now, just in case you're not aware of this. If I bring in impact and I set up, let's say, let's go and get the Tom Breckline drums. They're a really nice drum set. Now, did you see what happened? There's a bunch of these channels that have just populated the mixer, and that is because impact has multiple kind of channels that it sends to here. So a different drum will be on a different channel. So you see that? I'm doing that on the Atom SQ, so all my toms are going to be... All the toms are on Impact Stereo 4. Snare drum is on 2. So you see the cymbals are on 5. And then the hi-hat is on 3. So that's kind of that's how impact works. It's it's completely different. Now you see there, Impact 5 also had like this extra snare drum sound, which is kind of like a rim shot. Alright, so I hope that helps. Billy says, I watched your HD7 review, waiting for mine from Jonny. Yes, of course, you won that. Congratulations. I remember that. You won the draw. Well done, mate. You will love them. As Jonny said, and as I said in that video, I mean, that was kind of a two-part review because I reviewed these guys and I also reviewed the HD9s. Hang on, I'll get those. I reviewed these guys as well. These are the HD9s if you've never seen these before. These are specifically tracking headphones because they are completely closed back. So no sound escapes from the back or from out the sides here. Which means these are perfect for recording because you're not going to get very much bleed into your mic unless you have these cranked absurdly loudly, in which case shame on you because you're going to damage your hearing if you do that. But yeah, you'll not get very much bleed into the mic with these. There are other headphones in the market that are great for mixing, like the Sennheiser HD 250s or 650s. They are completely open back. These ones, the HD 7s, are semi-open back, and I'll explain that. If you look at the back here, you can see that there are little circles. These little circles here are the open parts, but it's, as you can see, it's not completely, the whole back of the can is not open. It's kind of partially open with these little circles, okay? And so what that means is it's quite ingenious. Considering how cheap these are, it's quite ingenious because it means that you can use these for recording and for mixing and mastering as well. Because they are semi-open, they are good for mixing, but because they are semi-open, they are not too bad for tracking as well. I used these on my last EP, which was, ashamedly to admit, 4 years ago now. But yeah, I mean, even when I did my single from this year, which was a song called Dig Myself a Hole, I used these headphones because these are really comfortable. And I'm not saying the HD9s aren't. It's just that I've used these such a lot that these were kind of the default ones that I went for. But I have several pairs of these and I have several pairs of the HD9s as well. So, you know, if I've got a lot of people in this room, everybody's going to have their own set of headphones. No trouble. But yeah, these are great. You will love these. Tim says he has to run. Thanks for coming. Have a great night, Tim. Let's see. Will I see something different if I plug the cables? Is there a setup path different? If you're using MIDI cables, yes, it will be different than if you use USB. If you use USB, then you will need to set up your external devices in a slightly different way. So if I go Studio One, Options, External Devices, you will see that these are my external devices. There's my Faderport 2018. That's connected via USB. And you see it has send to receive from PreSonus FP2. There's the Yamaha QS300. This is connected via MIDI. Now, I'm using this only to control the sounds inside of Studio One. I'm not using my own sounds on the keyboard because they are horribly early 1990s sounding, which is why the send to is not connected, because I don't want to send and trigger my own sounds from Studio One. I only want to control the sounds inside Studio One, and I'm doing that via a MIDI in, which is on the back of my 1824. So you will set receive from to the MIDI port on your interface. And then the Atom SQ is connected via USB, which is why it has its own dedicated send and return. And then I've just selected all channels. But if I wanted to specifically specify that the Atom only controls MIDI channel 10 for drums, then that's all it will ever control. And then if I want to have the Yamaha QS300 control everything except MIDI channel 10, you can set that up just by going here, going edit, and you see where it's got all MIDI channels selected. You just unselect MIDI channel 10. The keyboard will no longer control MIDI channel 10. Atom SQ will control MIDI channel 10. Never the twain shall meet. There shall be no crosstalk on MIDI channel 10 with the drums. It just won't happen because you have configured those two instruments separately to do that. So if you are connecting via USB, you'll have to send to and receive from, if you're connecting via USB only to control Studio One, you only need to set up the receive from. If you want to control whatever is on board your keyboard, then you need to set the send to as well. So it sends control messages or it sends MIDI data to your keyboard to trigger the sounds that are on your keyboard. And that way you would actually you'd set this up as an external instrument, which I haven't done because this is not connected in that way. So that's how you set these guys up. So if you're using a standard MIDI cable, you connect to your interface and you set the receive from as your MIDI as your interface. You will not find an option for the Yamaha, was it P115? It just won't be here. And if you don't see it there, that's deliberate. That's by design. You're not meant to see that. You're meant to see whatever the MIDI cable is connected to. That's what you will see. So in this case, it's the Studio 1824C, but whatever interface you have, your information will vary from what I see here. This is my interface. Yours will be different. Yours could be a Quantum 2. It could be a 4848. It could be a 2626. It could be a Studio 24 or 68 or any of those. It could be an Audio Box USB 96. That's what will show up here. It will not show up your actual keyboard unless you have it connected via USB. So hope that that's clear. So yeah, subfits has got to go. So how do you play the brushes sliding across the skins of a snare? You can't do that with V-drums. It is not possible with any drum instrument like V-drums or something like that. The way you would be able to play that is if you have samples loaded into something like Impact that you can trigger. I don't think there is a brushes kit, but we'll go and look. Let me go and see. Unless you've actually purchased something specifically. Like I have a few options here. Like I have the Tom Breckline drums. There's a brushes kit for that. So there's no other sample though. So these are all striking with brushes. Let's see. Jazz brush kit. Let's try this one. See if there is any kind of swishing. No. Okay, so there is no sample of the kind of swish of the brush across the snare drum in this kit either. But if you had a sample, that's what you would use. But yeah, there's no way to actually trigger that by, stroking a brush across V-drums. In fact, Roland, who make V-drums, will tell you explicitly, do not play their products with brushes or mallets because you will damage the heads. Because they are not designed for it. But if you have a drum set, preset that is loaded with samples that gives you that kind of swishing sound of brushes on the drum head, then you can do it. But you wouldn't actually stroke the drum. You'd have to strike it to trigger the sample. And that's the only way you can do it. So it's nothing in Studio One. That's just the way it is. All right, mine's got to go. And yes, I think we are going to go as well. I think we're going to end the show there because people are beginning to go away now. We were at 27 and now we're down at 13. So thank you very much, everybody, for coming. I'm glad to have answered your questions. If you have a specific topic broadly that you would like me to address in next week's show, then please drop me an email. My web address is underneath me here. If you go there, you can contact me. There is a contact form for you to fill out there, or you can email me, Jonny at johnnylipshamstudios.co.uk. Put the subject as Sunday Night Live, and then tell me what it is you would like me to cover. I would like to get as many of these as possible so that I have several weeks lined up of particular focuses that we're going to cover. So please do get those emails in. I would appreciate it very much. And all that remains for me to do is press that button over there and say a very good night to everybody. And I will see you next Sunday. Don't forget, if you are in the UK, Studio One Meetup UK is on Friday, 8 p.m. GMT. I will see you there. Good night.